Hello, BookTube. I wanted to make it a quick discussion response to something that I watched the other day on Mercy's Bookish Musings, an absolute pillar of, of the BookTube community, where she made a video with a bone-chilling title, Am I Falling Out of Love with Reading? And I'm sure that by now all of you have seen it, because everybody subscribes to her, and they should. It's a great channel that she has. And makes a title to a video like that all the more jarring. And I watched the video. I watched it a couple of times where she talks about she can't even really call what she's going through a reading slump because its proportions are bigger than that. One 3-star book after another that she links in part to, I guess, random chance, but also in part to that she's a much more critical reader, and that if you approach reading more critically, things that might have sailed by at 4 or 5 stars are suddenly 3-star books. And towards the end of the video, she sort of invites viewers to go to her Goodreads page and recommend books that are on, I guess, her list of books that she has but hasn't read. And she wraps up the video by looking forward to 2018 sort of faintly. It sounded really like she's had such a bad run of reading that she's not really hopeful for 2018. And the video really got me thinking. I've been thinking about it even when I wasn't on BookTube. Not only because I hate to see such a great booktuber going through that, but also because it made me wonder what the rest of you think about reading slumps or even falling out of love with reading. We've all seen booktube channels disappear when we know for sure from other social media that their proprietors are still around. They're not on BookTube anymore, and I'd be willing to bet, if I've seen it, and I'm pretty sure you've seen, that in some of those cases it's because the person, they don't want to say it this way, but they just don't read anymore. Or they read almost nothing anymore. They certainly don't read enough to maintain an ongoing discussion about it, which is what this is. But one sort of thread that ran through the video by Mercy's Bookish Musings was something that's come up even in my summary of that video, and that bothers me enough to make a response video, and that's Goodreads. It's not just that at the end of the video she invites her viewers to go to her Goodreads page and suggest books that are listed there. It's also all that talk about 3 and 4 and 5 stars. It's the BookTube, the Goodreads rating system. To an extent that, I don't know, I don't want to say that she might not have been aware of, because she seems to be aware of everything. But certainly to an extent that struck me, her video that's titled, Am I Falling Out of Love with Reading, was absolutely haunted by Goodreads, and not by critical reading. Haunted by the idea of assessing things in a Goodreads context. That if I'm right, and it contributed at all to a feeling of falling out of love with reading, then it just underscores for me some of the problems with Goodreads. I made a video a long time ago about some of my pros and cons of Goodreads, and one of the cons that I mentioned at the time was that a site that big, thousands and thousands and thousands of very active users, all of them dealing with books, all of them communally piling in with reviews of the same handful, the same 100 books. One of the problems with something like that is that it can lead to groupthink, and groupthink is tyrannical. It's one of the defining characteristics of groupthink is that it's tyrannical. It isn't just a place of community. It starts off looking like that, and it builds itself that way. But really, what it is a taskmaster. I don't know. I don't really have a conclusion to offer here in response to her video. One thing I wanted to stick up for is critical reading. I'm sure that she doesn't intend it, but one way that you could watch her video, one takeaway that you could get from her video that I'm sure she didn't intend it. But if you were watching the video, one thing you might end up thinking is that, well, maybe critical reading is the problem here. And that's not true. Speaking as someone who, I am a critical reader, I only turn my critical reading off when I already know the book. But in terms of reading something new, never. I never do it. And I find stuff that I love all the time. No, it's not. The problem isn't critical reading, but the problem might be the cookie cutter evaluation parameters of something like Goodreads that has you thinking, is this a 3-star read? Instead of thinking, what's good and bad about this book? What things about it do I like? What things might I remember? Instead, needing to wrap it up like that. So I guess I don't actually have a conclusion. I just wanted, first of all, to draw your attention to her video. I'll link it down below, but also to open up the conversation. This is a very standout thing. This is not somebody whose main channel is video gaming and who has 200 subscribers on BookTube and likes occasionally to talk about George R.R. Martin. This is a big booktuber who's in this one video anyway, sounds like she's doubting a lot of the central tenets of being a reader. I think unsustainably. I've been reading the comments on that video as they've been racking up, and a lot of those comments are, this is just a phase, you're just going through a dark shadow, and we all do it. Buck up, you'll be fine. And lots, because BookTube is great, because BookTube is a great community, lots and lots of recommendations. The comments, and I'm sure a lot of the messages that she's getting through Goodreads were, well, if you're going through a slump, this book will fix it. And I love that. Even though it might not work, I love the optimism of it. But I wanted to know what the rest of you think. So this will be a rare occasion where I'm asking you to respond about a video, but not just that. I want to know what you think. What role does Goodreads and its rating system play in your reading? I understand the part about Goodreads where people use it and love it for its accounting aspect, keeping track of how many books you read in a year and what you thought about each one of them. I have no idea why a notebook and a pencil can't do the same thing, but I know that hundreds of people love Goodreads for that function. But I mean the other part of it, the rating part of it. I'd love to hear what you think about all of that, and whether or not sometimes you find yourself thinking more about the rating on Goodreads than maybe you should during the course of reading a book and after. Do you ever get to page 300 of a 375-page novel and find yourself thinking more about how you're going to rate it on Goodreads than what you're actually reading? I'd love to hear all of that, because I don't live on Goodreads the way so many other readers that I know do, and so I'd be fascinated to hear it. And that's it for this video. I'm not a mail haul or anything like that. Just wanted to. This is a good thing to think about. It's an interesting thing that this would happen to such a prolific reader. So I'll wrap it up for now, and feel free to bombard me with comments. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.